We've cruised nearly 100 times, but never on a river cruise, and we couldn't help but wonder, were we too young for Viking? Well, what we discovered surprised us. The onboard activities, tours, and dining, we're sharing our honest review, so regardless of your age, you can decide if Viking is right for you. Up next. Welcome aboard, everyone. I'm Don B from Eat, Sleep, Cruise. When we boarded Viking Radgrid in Paris, we immediately noticed as 40-somethings, we were among the youngest passengers on the ship. If I had to estimate, the median age was somewhere in the 70s. On most ocean ships, that number sits closer to the mid-50s. So yes, the difference stood out at first. Some passengers even brought their adult kids along, and many of those kids were older than us. Now, before you think this is a negative review, hold on. What we expected and what we experienced were two very different stories. Going into the cruise, we honestly thought Viking might feel a little stuffy, but once on board, the vibe felt completely different. Viking has this calm, comfortable rhythm to it, polished and beautifully maintained, but not pretentious. It feels like an upscale home that you instantly feel comfortable in. From the relaxed lounge spaces to the soft lighting and Scandinavian design, the whole atmosphere felt easygoing and inviting. And our fellow cruisers matched that tone perfectly. These passengers were friendly, social, and genuinely curious about travel. Many were seasoned Viking cruisers. They knew the ins and outs of the line, spoke highly of the crew, and clearly loved the brand. Even first-time guests seemed to settle in quickly. By day 2 or 3, everyone found their rhythm, the daily schedule, meal times, tours, it all just clicked. Another benefit is Viking's adult-only policy. This keeps the atmosphere peaceful. There's no kids running around and no family chaos. So yes, we were on the younger side of the typical demographic for Viking cruises, but the question is, did that actually even matter? Before we talk about the actual experience on this ship, it's important to understand the flow of a Viking River cruise, because it's completely different from ocean cruising. Essentially, you're in a new port almost every day. Most days include shore excursions. Sometimes these are short walking tours. Sometimes they're full-day explorations. Other days include scenic sailing segments, where you glide by medieval towns, chateaus, and the countryside. The pace means that the ship isn't the main attraction. The destination is. In this case, France. Viking's design philosophy is that the ship is the vehicle for your destination. It's comfortable, elegant transportation, not a floating resort. So the atmosphere on board feels calm and restorative rather than high energy. Once you settle into this mindset, everything else about Viking makes complete sense. During our week-long sailing on Viking Radgrid, our onboard life was simple but pleasant. Our cruise director Mia hosted nightly port talks and even ran a lighthearted game show, which is one of the highlights of the cruise. That was about it though. There were no production shows, no trivia, no deck parties. There was one daytime lecture from a local artist discussing French Impressionism, and evening entertainment like a French trio or opera singers a couple nights of the cruise. But again, context is everything. Most days we were gone from early morning until after dinner, exploring French villages or touring the beaches of Normandy. You're not booking a Viking River cruise for non-stop activities. You're there to explore Europe deeply and rest comfortably in between. Viking also rolled out a silent ship policy in 2024, so there's no constant announcements and no interruptions. Everything else came through the Viking Voyager app or on our printed daily schedule. We love that. It was peaceful, no wake-up calls, no bingo starts in 5-minute announcements, but you do need to stay organized. Because the ship holds only 162 passengers, by midweek, you've essentially met everyone. Cliques form quickly around dining tables, and while most people were friendly, you definitely can't escape when you're on a Viking River cruise. Honestly, besides your stateroom, there are a few places to hide. Unlike some other river cruise lines, Viking ships do not have a spa, a pool, or a fitness center. Viking just has a dining room, a terrace lounge, and a sun deck. For us, this slimmed down approach to cruising worked, but by the end of the week, we did miss a little of the variety we're used to on ocean cruise ships, especially when it came to the dining. Dining on Viking River ships is an experience of its own, not always in the way we expected. Meals happen at very set times, usually 7 a.m., noon, and 7 p.m. There's no flexibility. Both dining venues on Viking Radgrid, the restaurant, and the Aquavit Terrace served identical menus. But here's the twist. There were very few tables for two. Most tables sat 6 or more. This means you'll share essentially every meal with other guests, unless you're in a suite dining privately. By mid-cruise, groups naturally form, and you end up often dining with the same folks, which was great because the conversations were engaging. Still, it can be tiring for introverts or anyone who occasionally wants a quieter dinner. There's no room service and no grab-and-go food options. On the upside, the food was excellent. There were French regional dishes, rotating international options, and the Taste of Normandy buffet. Beer and wine are included with lunch and dinner, and the servers are quick to top off your drink. By the end of the week, the structured dining windows felt a little restrictive, especially when we had back-to-back excursions. The energy level at dinner was calm. It usually focused on those days' events or previous travel stories. But honestly, dinner usually was over around 9 p.m., and by 10, most people were heading to bed. And after long days of touring, we were okay with that. There's perhaps one area where age might influence your experience on a Viking River cruise. Every included tour moves at one pace, and that is slow. Several other river cruise lines typically offer optional activity levels, often characterized as gentle, regular, and active to accommodate different fitness levels. Unfortunately, Viking didn't offer that option on our cruise, and for us, that was sort of a letdown. Our walking tour of Rouen covered just a few blocks in 90 minutes. It was great for photos and context, but not ideal if you like covering ground. We sometimes walked ahead and caught the guide's narration through the Quiet Vox earpiece. It worked beautifully until you get too far away and lose the signal. So while the tours themselves were leisurely, the overall schedule can be surprisingly demanding. Early mornings, long excursions, and physical terrain, cobblestone streets, hills, and stairs all add up. At Le Roche-Guyon, we climbed the 250 steps to the bell tower, rewarding but definitely a workout. You also need to be very flexible. High river levels force us to dock outside Paris at the end of our cruise. We missed Monet's Garden due to seasonal closures, but Viking swapped in another charming village visit instead. If you're used to active vacations or want more multiple excursion options, the one speed for all setup might feel limiting. But if you enjoy taking your time and soaking in the sights, this might be perfect. Now keep in mind that there are some optional tours you can purchase through Viking. However, unlike ocean cruises, there are a few options to book private tours. Many of these stops or ports of call along the river are small villages, which don't have a lot of services. But of course, you could always walk around on your own. Regardless of your age, there's actually a lot to love about the Viking River cruise process. The logistics were flawless. Embarkation took 15 minutes. There's no lines, no waiting. Airport transfers when you purchase your flights through Viking were smooth, and the service was next level and personal. Our cabin attendant knew our names by day 2, and the staff remembered our preferences. The Scandinavian design was modern, bright, and inviting. And another benefit is that you can bring unlimited alcohol and food on board. Viking charges no corkage fee, so we loved picking up local wine or pastries and enjoying them on our balcony while cruising the Seine. Surprisingly, the Wi-Fi worked pretty well too. As part of Viking's inclusions, not only a beer and wine available at meals, there's also free specialty coffee and free Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi was powered by Starlink, and I was able to basically get work done and check social media and emails, but it wasn't fast enough for streaming. One thing that did take getting used to was the cabin size. It is a little tight at 205 square feet with the balcony included. It's manageable, but cozy. We used some of our cruise hacks to make the best use of the space, including an over-the-door shoe organizer for our toiletries and other small accessories. Laundry was another surprise. Viking River ships don't have self-service laundry like their ocean ships, but paid service is available, but if you don't pack correctly, it could add up quickly. Perhaps our biggest frustration was the lack of dining flexibility. There are no casual options, no late night snacks, no real grab-and-go options unless you request them ahead of time. And while we did enjoy many of the walking tours, some of the tours, especially the Paris Panoramic Bus Tour, felt too broad and really didn't show us much of the city. The intimacy of a Viking River ship is a blessing and a curse. Everyone knows everyone, which can feel warm or, depending on your personality, claustrophobic. And yes, the limited entertainment can make the evenings feel repetitive. But once we adjusted expectations and remembered that river cruising is about the destinations, those frustrations faded. The real question isn't, are you too young or too old to take a Viking River cruise? It's more about your travel style. So ask yourself a few questions. Do you enjoy meeting new people over every meal? Are you comfortable with slower paced tours? Do you prefer culture and scenery over onboard entertainment? Can you adapt to fixed schedules and early mornings? If that sounds like your style, most likely you'll love a Viking River Cruise, whether you're in your 40s like us or in your 70s. Heidi and I had no issues fitting in with the other travelers who obviously love traveling and love to see the world one port at a time. The age difference was noticeable, but it was never uncomfortable. Would we ever sail on Viking again? Yes, we've just adjusted our expectations. So if you're in your 40s or 50s, or you're just considering Viking River Cruises, don't let age hold you back. If you love history, culture, and slow travel, go for it. If you need constant activity and value flexibility, a Viking River Cruise may not be the best fit. Viking isn't about being young or old, it's about curiosity, connection, and comfort. We're glad we experienced it, and we recommend it for travelers who want to see Europe differently. And if you want to know exactly what it was like on our Viking River Cruise on the Seine, click or tap on our Viking River Cruise video review right here on YouTube. In that video, we do a deep dive on all aspects about the ship, from the dining, onboard activities and enrichment, and staterooms. Plus, we go day by day reviewing the ports of call and our tours to help you decide if a Viking River Cruise is right for your next cruise vacation.